Hi everybody, I'm the Mommy Penguin, and I wanted to run through my birth plan that I had really quickly with you and do any tips that I can give. My birth went really well except for what wasn't followed by the doctor and what they ignored, which I'll do in a separate video just so I can get through this fast. So up at the top we had me and my husband's name, and then it says all natural birth plan, just so they know all natural, that's the point. And then it has a list of our support people, including our doula and moms and stuff like that. And then I had a header that said attendance, and we said we asked that no students, interns, residents, or non-essential personnel be present during the labor or the birth. We asked to have a nurse that is familiar and excited about natural birth, especially hypnobirthing and or the Bradley method. And that's a sentence I would definitely put in, that you asked to have a nurse that is excited about natural birth. And because if you ask them, like, I want someone that's familiar with natural birth, they'll say, oh, well, we're all trained in natural birth. But to have one that's excited about it is definitely a plus. And our birth was obviously in the hospital, and we were using the hypnobirthing method, and I'll talk about how that went in another video. This ended up working very well for us, and we did have a nurse that was just so supportive and amazing, and all the nurses were and went above and beyond to help us with our natural side of things. And then we have a header called pre-admission, and I said, if upon arrival to the hospital, if I'm under 5 centimeters with no complicating factors, we will decline until a later time when I feel to be more progressed. Now, I will put in a disclaimer. We went in at 3.5 centimeters, and then I had to argue with the doctor that was on call to let us be admitted because I had put that sentence in there. And the reason why I changed my mind was because I had been in active labor for about 8 hours. So I would word that a little bit differently now. I wouldn't say we decline admission, but you might want to just kind of play with that or not put it in there at all, because if you really feel like you're having the baby, you don't want to be declined. We ended up having to wait in our triage before we got a room for 2 hours. So, and it really actually, my husband and my support people really felt that made me not progress as fast, because I was sitting there with a gurney, 2 pillows, and a little bathroom without all my support team for 2 hours, and it really just kind of set me back a little bit. But the reason why we put it in there was because we didn't want to be admitted to the hospital and then have all these things try to be forced on us because we'd been there so long. So, I didn't want to go in at 2 centimeters, but it turns out I wanted to go in at 3.5. There's also another little bit about that it depends on who's checking you and their fingers. Different people will feel different centimeters of dilation. So, one person can check you and think you're a 4.5 or a 5.5, and somebody else could think that you're, a centimeter different from that. So, so someone could check you and think you're a 9. Someone else checks you with their hand, they think you're an 8. So, that is also kind of throws things off a bit. So you're just not so sure about how many centimeters you're actually at. And in hypnobirthing, centimeters really don't matter. And our doula was, a little bit more supportive of not having the numbers be told to us. So that was something that, I just kind of might reword or just take out completely. And then I asked, if possible, please assign a room that is nearest to the labor tub. Please have a mobile monitoring unit ready and available, as I'll be freely moving during labor and birth. If not available, please use the Doppler. And that's something I definitely asked for. Now, we did get the room that was closest to the labor tub, because all of the laboring rooms at the hospital I was at, which is a pretty new hospital, only have showers. So there's only one labor tub, and it's kind of first come, first serve. And most people don't use it for some reason, but we used it, and it was very comforting. But you're not allowed to birth in the tub there. So then with the mobile monitoring unit, or intermittent monitoring unit maybe, whatever the hospital name for it is, those are normally not available, and they only have 1 to 2 on the floor, and sometimes they say they're broken or in use. So that's why we asked for the Doppler as well, because the Dopplers can be a lot more work for a nurse, so they might prefer to just keep you on the intermittent monitoring unit. We actually did not get the intermittent monitoring unit though, or the mobile one. They did use the Doppler, so that was actually really nice that the Doppler was used, because instead of 20 minutes on the continuous monitoring belt system, it was like 30 seconds, a minute. It's just as long as they would have in your appointment when you go to the doctor, when they're just checking the heartbeat, and that's it. Now, her little heart rate stayed amazingly steady through the whole labor, and which was pretty amazing. It was a 28-hour labor, but her heartbeat never changed between, like, it stayed around 135. If her heart rate had changed, they might have made me go on a different system, but because she was good, the Doppler was fine. Then I also said we decline IV prep, Heplock /Heplock, or an IV stent put in your arm unless an emergency arises. And then I said support people will help me maintain fluid and nutrition intake and output. And my support people were very, very helpful. And with that, and they did, even though I threw up twice, and I was worried that they would make me go on an IV because I threw up, but they didn't. I just kept drinking tons and tons and tons of water. So I did have the biggest fight over 2 areas of this birth plan with my primary doctor, but my doctor was actually on vacation when I had her, so we had an on-call doctor, and I'll tell you that whole story later. It was not that I didn't like the on-call doctor, but with my doctor, I had a long discussion with him about the IV stent, and he just gave me all of the risks, and the main risk was if you hemorrhage, then it may take 1 or 2 minutes to get the IV in, to be able to get stuff in to stop the hemorrhage, and bleeding for 1 or 2 minutes could be a very big danger. And I asked him if I was at risk of hemorrhage, and he said no, I wasn't. So then we just went ahead, and so I asked him if I was at risk for it, and then I asked if he was willing to let me assume those risks, and he said he felt comfortable with me assuming those risks, and that I didn't need the IV prep or the stent in my arm. Now, if you do decide to get the IV prep, make sure they put it in like this portion of the arm and not in your hand, and I've heard that that's a little bit more comfortable here than it is in the hand or somewhere else, but thankfully I didn't have to get it all. And then during birth, I have a header in this section that I would like to move around the room freely and use the birthing tub or shower, birthing bar, which is something that you can put on the end of the bed and kind of squat down on it and still be on the bed. Birth ball, birthing seat or stool if available. And I tried to get all of that into the room. Please do not force me into reclined position. Allow me to move freely and find the best birthing position that allows gravity to help birth the baby. We would like as few checks and interruptions as possible. To decrease the risk of infection, we ask that no vaginal exams be done after the water has broken, and to please keep the lights in the room dim. And that's part of the hypnobirthing thing, just kind of lower lights, being able to concentrate. Now I ended up getting checks done, like at least three done after my water had broken, but they were just, that was something that wasn't as important when I was in labor, but I would still put it in there. And I would really remember that we ended up using this a birth plan as something to say, like, this is what we wanted. For, like, this is kind of a legal document, and you can use this. So I would put all of your hopes and wishes in here, and just go all out and make sure that you're very clear and concise, for a doctor that's skimming over it, or maybe fully reading it. But they have the obligation to read your birth plan and to go by it, because this is your wishes. This is what you want. And in most states, and I think, as an American law, they have to abide by your wishes. So we don't want any form of epidural or induction, natural or medical. Under no circumstances will we accept an episiotomy. And I put that in there because I've heard from many women that they would rather tear than rip. They'd rather tear or rip than be cut, and that if you're cut, then it can increase your risk of tearing further. So I just said no episiotomy whatsoever. Also, we would like a significant amount of time allowed for crowning, massage, and warm crown presses, and would prefer that the doula or my husband give gentle coach direction and small controlled pushes to avoid tearing. A cesarean is an absolute last resort. We would like to try every other method and wait as long as possible before it is an option. If labor slows to the point of non-progression, we will go home and try again later. And I put that in there, and I actually ended up saying that to the doctor that we had, and I was glad that it was in there. It was like, you know what? If we're really not progressing, we can go home, and don't try to force a cesarean on me, period. And it ended up, having her back down and stop talking about cesarean to us at some point, because of the length of the labor. And at one point I went from 9 centimeters down to 8 because I was so tired. It was after 20 hours. So I would definitely put something like that in there if they read it, and try to have them not come and approach you about a cesarean, because that just, I don't want that. I didn't want that emotional, like, worry while I was sitting there in the middle of my birth. But she still did it. Anyway, after birth, my husband will catch the baby and place her on my chest, skin to skin. Please wait to have my husband cut the cord after it is done pulsating. All the blood has flowed to the baby. The placenta has shrunken and been naturally delivered. We would like at least an hour alone with the baby before tests and other routine procedures begin. Please test the baby's blood type with the other procedures. And, the baby's blood type was just part of something that was kind of like, I want to know. Just kind of as, that's something my family is just kind of interested in. But it ended up being a real lifesaver, because I thought my husband had done this little test that we got through the mail on Amazon, and he was A negative, and so I'm O negative, and I was like, my husband's A negative, so we avoided the RhoGAM shot. And then because they did her blood type, she's A positive. So my husband must be A positive too, but we need to get him rechecked with a real through a real lab. And then I had to get RhoGAM after she was born. That could have been very serious if she was my second baby that was positive, because actually it can attack, like positive, the negative blood can attack the positive blood, so it could have been very serious condition to me and to the baby. But for this time, we were safe enough, and we got the RhoGAM shot just to be okay. And then I said, do not inject, spray, or administer any medication or vaccine to the baby. Also, do not put anything into the baby's eyes. We will bring oral vitamin K to be administered at the hospital. And I can put a link here to the oral vitamin K that my doula and some midwives suggested. It's about $30 for a little bottle. It's like K quinoa or something, but I'll put it down there. You can find it on Amazon, and some I've heard are not strong enough. Now we forgot to order it fast enough, and I thought I would have a couple more days, and they have 2-day shipping, and it actually didn't arrive until after the day after she was born, because I ordered it on Friday, went into labor on Saturday, she was born early Sunday morning, and then it arrived Monday. So, and then they said that it's fine as long as you give it to them within 72 hours, and that they don't administer it at the hospital. It's not a big deal. So they just had me not sign a waiver for the vitamin K shot, and then I was able to give it to her once we got home. And you just give like 1 drop orally to them, and it tastes like nothing. It's fine. So then I'm sorry, I've probably been doing that a long time to you, huh? Then we then you just give 1 drop, and she took it just fine. She didn't have any issues with the flavor or anything. And then I put in some allergies and that me and my husband have, and we said, we decline all vaccinations. We would like to breastfeed and have a lactation consultant available to help and give advice. We would like to wait a day and bathe her ourselves with guidance, and we'll use our own soap. Because I have eczema, and I can only use certain shampoos and lotions. Now, they actually put on her thing, no bath, and we ended up not giving her one at all. So then we just did it at home. And then I have this thing, this last section that says, disclaimer. Please discuss any issues discreetly with my husband before disturbing me. And if any medical intervention of any kind is necessary, we request that a very detailed, informative, analytical explanation with proof of reasoning be given to both me and my husband, and that as much time as possible be allowed for a final decision and approval to be given by my husband. Because I figured, I don't want to be the one responsible for making the decisions if I'm in labor. So, and my husband's very sensitive to my wishes and would discuss it very well with me. I'm actually a very assertive, decisive person, so that's a lot for me to say that I didn't want to be the decision maker, but I wanted him to be the one to go through, because I knew that he might be stronger at some points than me. Please advise us of any protocol that is needed for a birth plan to succeed. We will happily sign any waivers to opt out of medical procedures and vaccinations. And that's it. Now, some people's birth plans are a little bit more floofy and fluffy, but I was just kind of straightforward and went for it. So there we go. If you have any questions, I will be posting another video saying how my birth plan went, and but yeah, thank you. Have a great day.